All right, brothers, how we doing?
All right.
Great. Okay, good to be with so many of you all tonight. As you heard, my name is Father Zac Povis. I'm the pastor down at Our Lady, Good Shepherd, and Sacred Heart as of July, so about 7 months ago. I'm not going to say too much about myself because I got a lot of content that I wanted to kind of share with you guys tonight. I'm around all night though, so if you want to meet me or learn anything about me, just grab me at some point. I'm happy to talk to you. Great to be here to talk about the role of reason in the thinking of Thomas Aquinas. I was presented with this topic quite a few months ago, was excited to jump on it because this is my wheelhouse. I love Aquinas. I've spent a lot of years of school just sort of studying his thought, and I'm also very interested in just promoting the life of the mind, right? That, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is just encouraging thinking, using our rationality, using our reason to deepen our understanding of the world, of ourselves, of our purpose, and of God. And this presentation in and of itself will help you do that because there's some tough stuff in here. When I first told some folks in my parish that I was going to be presenting on this, there's the pizza. A lot of them were like, go really deep. We want to know a lot of Aquinas. So I'm doing that. There's some kind of tough and deep content in here. I got a slideshow here just to kind of, for visual learners, not everything I'm going to say is up here on the slideshow. It's just to kind of help with some bullet points to give you a sense of where I'm going. Don't worry, you're not going to interrupt me. Feel free to get up and get pizza whenever you want. It's all good. So don't worry about that. Or should I say, what's that? Slow down? Oh, that's going to be very hard for me. I'm a very fast speaker. I will try though. Okay. So the topic for tonight is the role of reason according to the thinking of St Thomas Aquinas, okay? And according to Aquinas' thinking, reason, or the intellect, or the life of the mind, is absolutely central to both his philosophical and theological project. Let me just stop there. Do we know the difference between philosophy and theology? Should I spell those out really quick? Because I'm going to use those terms quite a bit. Let me spell them out. Okay. Philosophy and theology are two sciences that proceed methodologically in the same way, which is to say that they take truths, compare them with other truths in order to deduce further truth. That's how science works, right? I take what I know and I apply the laws of logic to it to deduce further truths that I don't yet know. What's different between philosophy and theology is not how they work, it's where they start. Philosophy starts with truths that we can know on our own, that I can grasp by the natural light of my reason, by itself. Things that I can understand about the world just by observing it or by doing science. Theology starts with truths that are revealed to us by God, right? So theology's starting point is what God has told us about himself, things that exceed what we can arrive at by natural reason. So philosophy and theology, they're two sciences that seek to deepen our understanding of the world. They just start from two different starting points. Philosophy starts from what we can know by ourselves. Theology starts from what God has told us about himself and about his purposes. And the point I'm going to make tonight is that for Aquinas, the role of reason, or the intellect, or the mind, is kind of a connecting point between his philosophy and his theology. Which is to say that if man is to know God, if man is to know the things that God has revealed to us, man must first be a knower. Man must be a being who's capable of knowledge, of knowing things. So a massive swath of what Aquinas' work is his developing what does it mean to know? And can we defend the human capacity to know? He spends a lot of ink defending the fact that human beings are knowing beings, that we have a faculty which puts us in contact with reality, that we can grasp objective truth about things. So I'm going to spend a lot of time just on that point, this philosophy of mind, and then end with kind of one theological sort of implication of it all, okay? Philosophical anthropology, these are two kind of Greek terms. Philosophy is from two Greek words, philo, sophia, which is love of wisdom. So philosophy is, again, the love of human wisdom, knowledge. Anthropology, it would be, anytime you see the word ology at the end of a word, is from the Greek word logos, which is the Greek word for science. So anytime you see ology, it's science of whatever the prefix is. And in this case, anthropos means human beings or man. right? So anthropology is the study of what it means to be human, okay? So Aquinas follows the definition of Aristotle in defining human beings. What is a human being? A human being is a rational animal. What's the definition of a human being? A human being is a rational animal. That is to say that man is an animal, like the other animals that walk the earth, which is to say that we have bodies. What distinguishes us from the other animals that walk the earth is that we're rational. Man, unlike the other animals, is a thinking animal. Man is able to know and understand and ponder reality. And in this way, human beings assume sort of a kind of a middle position between angels and the lower animals. Angels are pure spirits. Angels don't have bodies. Angels are knowing beings. Angels can understand and know reality, but they don't have bodies. So they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't even move technically from one place to another. They're not spatially located. What does an angel look like? It doesn't look like anything, because it doesn't have a body, right? There's nothing to see when you're talking about seeing an angel, right? So angels are pure spirits. Animals are pure bodies. They're purely material. They're more complex than plants or animals, or plants or rocks, in that they have organs that enable them to sense and to move themselves around. But according to Aquinas and Aristotle, animals are pure bodies, okay? So human beings are kind of like something in between. We are bodies, we're bodily creatures, and to that extent, we're somewhat restricted by our bodies. I can only be where my body is, but I'm a knowing body. I'm like an angel in the sense that I can know reality. And actually, plenty of philosophers, both ancient and contemporary, take precisely man's knowledge, his capacity to know, as the starting point for a proof for the existence of the human soul. You don't necessarily need divine revelation to tell us that we have a soul. Plenty of philosophers, including Aristotle, through the centuries, have been able, or proposed that they are able to demonstrate the fact of the human soul. And many of those proofs start with the fact of human knowledge. They consider what's happening in the case of knowledge, and they reason their way to the idea that that activity can't be explainable by matter, by material, by bodies, and so human nature must have a spiritual component to it, a non-bodily component. The proofs are difficult. I'm not going to go through any of them right now. I'm going to give some books at the end to recommend if you want to dive into that. But that's a fascinating point. Rational proofs for the existence of the human soul. I just want to kind of spell out Aquinas' theory of knowledge in very, very broad terms, because that's going to kind of set the groundwork for what I want to talk about here eventually. And the fundamental point is that for Aquinas, for Aristotle, the two are on the same page on just about everything, is that in knowledge, the knower in some way becomes the thing known. There's a conformity, a union between the knower and the known object, the subject and the object. The intellect acts by receiving into itself the intelligible content of an object, of a known thing. And it can only do that because it's immaterial. It's able to receive the forms of other things precisely as other. So truth, therefore, we would define with Aquinas as the conformity of the mind with reality. What is truth? It's the conformity of the intellect, of the mind, with the thing that is known, with reality. It becomes conformed to what it understands. And the more perfect, the more accurate the understanding, the more perfect and more complete the conformity between the knower and the known. It's an absolutely central idea to Aquinas' theory of knowledge, and he follows Aristotle to a T on this. Again, I'm not going to go too much into it here. I'm just trying to lay out some kind of broad strokes for you for an argument here. The important point is that the immateriality of the intellect enables it to receive into itself the forms of other things, and so in that way become the other things. The mind becomes really conformed to the things that it knows. There's a union between the knower and the known object. The knower in some way becomes the thing that is known. And so again, just to circle back, that puts human beings in kind of this middle position between angels, pure spirits, and animals, pure bodies. Man is both. We are matter and form. We are spirit and body and soul. I could spend a whole year just unpacking all of that, right? And I can see you're all lost already, but that's okay. What's the difference between a body and a non-body, right? Spirit and body. Why do we need immateriality to have knowledge? And personally, just as an editorial aside, I think many of the problems we're facing in the world and the church right now are arising from a misunderstanding of what it means to be human. What is a human being? What is human nature? And Aquinas thinks we can know this. We can answer these questions. I think so much of what's going on wrong with the world is the fact that we're missing that. We don't know how to answer that question anymore. What does it mean to be human? And notice what I've said so far, that the soul and the body go together. The body isn't bad. Matter isn't evil. It's not like the soul's trying to escape from the body. We're not angels. Angels are pure spirits. Human beings are both. We're body and soul. And so I think that's where sometimes some of these transgender ideas kind of get lost, is that there's this conception of the body or of matter as just being this shell or this husk that my true self is trapped in or I'm trying to escape from, and so I can manipulate it or do whatever I want to it to express my true self. That's completely foreign to Catholic and also Thomistic understanding of human nature. No, the soul and the body go together, and it's the union of the two that the human person, the human being exists. Okay. So again, rationality, or our reasoning capacity, being what distinguishes us from lower animals, Aquinas makes a big deal out of this. He thinks that it's precisely our ability to reason that makes us human. Human beings are made for more than just eating, drinking, sleeping, sex, being entertained. All the animals do that. Animals do that, right? What makes man man is his capacity to grasp and understand the reality around himself and within himself, and to deepen his understanding of it. In understanding reality, man is then meant to conform his life to that understanding. Aristotle's definition of the wise man, these things, oh, okay. So this is moving, but those aren't. So I don't know what that, we lost a connection here between the laptop and those things. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm going backwards. Never mind, user error, okay. Which is common with Father Zac Povis. Okay, there we go. There it is. The wise man is, according to Aristotle, is the one who understands reality as it is in itself. I got it, sorry, it's my fault, as usual. And then lives his life accordingly. So we're meant to understand reality and then conform our life to it. We're not meant to just simply live in reaction to raw instinct or kind of the dictates of our body. We're able to discern and discover higher purposes, higher truths, higher realities, and then live our lives according to them. We're able to discern our nature and discern our destiny, and then in freedom, order our life to it. Note here that man is capable of understanding the truth and discovering the truth, but man is he's still a creature. You didn't create yourself. You didn't bring yourself into existence. Neither did I, right? We are caused beings. We were brought into being. And therefore, like every other creature, we received our existence and our nature from something else, ultimately from God. And that being the case, our nature is something which is received by us, or it's given to us. It's not something which we invent, it's something which we discover and then conform ourselves to. And that's the same with truth also. Human beings are rational animals. We're able to discover and learn and know the truth. But we didn't create ourselves or the world, so therefore it's not our place to invent or make up or create truth. No, you discover truth and then you order your life according to it. I think that's another completely lost notion in this day and age. Again, given that man's highest capacity, what makes man man, is his intellect, is his rational capacity. Aquinas thinks that the highest thing which you can be doing is engaging precisely that part of yourself. And he follows Aristotle on this, who says that the highest human activity is contemplation. It's engaging the life of your mind. It's allowing your mind to deepen its understanding of reality, including the highest realities, God. The best thing you can be doing with your time is doing that which makes you human. Expanding your mind, deepening your understanding, growing your knowledge of reality. In other words, if you want to flourish as a human being, do what humans do. Do what makes you human. It's a distinctively human privilege to be able to grasp and grow in our understanding of the truth, of how reality works, of how the world, how God actually is. I'll say more about it. I'm going to crap on our country in a little bit here, but we keep ourselves so busy, and I know most of us don't have the leisure of being full-time philosophers or just thinking all day. We have to make time for work and other things like that. But if I can make one practical suggestion, it would be make time for this. Make time for engaging the life of your mind, because that's what makes you human. That's what humans do. And this is what is going to be one of your kind of discussion question is maybe to think about what are the things in your life that most keep you from doing this, that keep you distracted, either just time-wise or just even kind of existentially wise. Why don't I do this more? Why don't I study? Why don't I read maybe? Why don't I think about sort of higher things, give myself to those higher pursuits? Again, it's something I think that we kind of miss largely. I just got to say kind of a sidebar about this. Aquinas takes very seriously, as I've been saying, the human capacity to know, but he also, of course, acknowledges that error is very possible as well. It's possible for us to make mistakes, for our intellect to fail, or our senses to fail, to grasp things as they actually are. And Thomas teaches that this is exacerbated by the fall. One of the effects of the fall of humanity is what he calls the darkening of the intellect. So before the fall, it would have been a delight and a pleasure for us to discern and discover the truth. But now, as with so many aspects, it's a toil. It takes work, and there's the possibility of error, and we often fail in it. But some thinkers take this fact of human error and kind of explode it out to a doubt that we can never know the truth. Maybe human beings actually never know the truth about anything. There's a lot of different sort of forms of that way of thinking. I'm going to broadly categorize them under the umbrella of the word skepticism. And it's not a new idea. Aristotle dealt with it 300 years before Jesus. Aquinas dealt with it. The forms of it that are probably most prevalent in our day and age stem from two 18th century philosophers, David Hume and then Immanuel Kant. Hume, his famous thought was that if you see like two pool balls rolling on a pool table, one hits the other and the second one starts to move, you can't really know that first one caused the motion of the second. All you can really know is that this one was moving and then now that one is, but you can't really know that the first caused the second. So Hume thinks all we can ever really know is what we sort of directly perceive with our senses. We can't reason our way to even common sense principles like cause and effect, right? Kant, a few decades later, blows that idea out even further and says, actually, we can't ever know anything. All the human mind ever actually knows is its own ideas. I never know reality as it is in itself. All I really know are my own ideas about reality. We're kind of sort of lost in our own minds. And this is everywhere, guys. Like this is so prevalent. You've probably heard all kinds of versions of this, right? There is no truth. There's only perception. You can't. All truth is relative, or it's all subjective. There's no such thing as truth. There's only opinion, right? This is everywhere in all kinds of different forms. So I wanted to bring this up because I think Aquinas' way of dealing with this is really instructive and really helpful. Aquinas recognized that the position of skepticism is not one that you can prove or argue your way back out of. Once you've granted the premise that we cannot actually know reality, that you cannot actually know truth, you've given up the game. You can't prove your way back out of it, because to prove something is essentially to demonstrate that it's true, and you've already admitted that there is no truth. The way I put this to people is babies don't come out doubting the evidence of their own senses. It's not a natural human intuition to doubt that I can ever know truth. I can ever know reality in and of itself. And so what Aquinas does is he never grants the premise. Instead, he shows why the reasons for granting it are all wrong. In other words, ask the question, give me a reason to doubt. Right? Because it's not natural to think we can't know truth, the burden of proof falls on the person who wants to say that we can't, to give you a reason to believe it. Why should I doubt? All the evidence of my lived experience tells me that I can know at least something about reality. Why should I doubt that? And so Aquinas just goes through the various popular reasons during his time for skepticism and shows that they don't bear the burden of truth. C.S. Lewis, I'm sure you all know, he's got kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of refuting skepticism. Basically just says, if somebody tells you there is no truth, ask them, is that true? Right? Is it true that there is no truth? Kind of argues that it's a circular problem. So yeah, the point here, skepticism is learned. It's not a natural human attitude. So I think we need to take very seriously our capacity to know, have an optimism about human reason, just as Aquinas does, especially as we go to evangelize. You know, and I'm going to say this at the end of time, we're running out of time, that faith, fundamentally, it's an act of the intellect, it's an act of the mind, it's a choice to believe something is true. So often it kind of gets reduced down to sentiment, right? That I'm in this relationship with God because it makes me feel good, or I like the music or whatever. And those are good entry points to get into it, but at some point everyone has to face the question, if you're going to be a Catholic, do you think it's true? I ask that of all of our OCIA candidates, right? At the end of the day, your choice to become Catholic should be because you think it's true. Do you believe this is true? And so we should, following Aquinas' example, take seriously the human capacity to know when we go to present the faith and when we go to evangelize. Don't be put off by these kind of skeptical arguments, even including ones for religious skepticism. No, have a great confidence in your ability to know. It takes work, it takes effort, but again, that work and that effort is precisely what makes you human. So do it. It's a highly worthwhile undertaking. Okay. Shut down here. Okay, just to circle over to a few more points here. Again, we want to vigorously assert man's capacity to grasp reality, truth. Again, it's the conformity of the mind to reality. It's not to say that the process is always easy, but we can get there. Let me skip this really quick. And again, for Aquinas, knowledge is an end in and of itself. It's a good to be had in and of itself because it's a perfection of your human nature. Very often in this day and age, we tend to sort of subordinate wisdom and knowledge to utilitarian or further ends. I go learn about things so I can build better machines, right? I go to school so I can get a job that will help me to make money. And for Aquinas, that's completely backwards. For Aquinas, knowledge and wisdom are ends in themselves. Knowledge is a good to be pursued in its own right. That's why they used to call it the liberal arts, right? Studying things like philosophy and such were called the liberal arts because they were free from being put to any sort of further end. You don't study philosophy so that you can go build a car or manage a corporation. You study philosophy because it's good to know philosophy, right? You study and you learn because wisdom and knowledge is a good thing. It's a good in and of itself. It perfects your human nature. To grow in knowledge is to grow in excellence. And excellence is something to be pursued in its own right. Again, we get this so backwards. I mean, what is education anymore? But it's STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, math, right? I go study these things so I can build better machines. For Aquinas, that's wrong. You don't go study in order to work. No, you work in order to have the resources and the leisure to study, to engage the life of your mind, right? To subordinate wisdom and knowledge to work and labor is to reduce kind of the higher parts of ourselves to kind of more bodily ends. And work and labor are good things. These are dignified pursuits, of course, but they're not the highest pursuits. So maybe to ask ourselves, do I learn in order to work, or do I work in order to learn? Or broaden out even more, Do I live to work, right? Or do I work to live, right? Am I working in order to have the resources and the leisure to do the things that really help me to flourish as a human being? Or do I do all that stuff to just sort of give myself more energy to go back to work? In America, I think we've got this thing absolutely backwards, right? We should work to live, not live to work. If you want a book that spells this out far more eloquently than I do, it's Leisure, the Basis of Culture by a great Thomist, German Thomist, Joseph Pieper. It's not that big. It's a great book, though. So that's just another little aside for you there. Wisdom and knowledge are goods to be pursued in their own right. Okay, so we've said that for Aquinas, knowledge, truth, is the conformity of the mind to the thing, right? As a man grows in his knowledge of something, he grows in his conformity with that thing. Presupposing the Catholic belief that God has revealed certain truths to us about himself, let's apply all that idea to knowledge of God. What's happening when a man knows God? When he arrives at certain knowledge of God through philosophy, or when he takes the truths that God has revealed to us, which are the basis for theology. Aquinas would say that this is how we image God. Man is the imago Dei, image of God, through primarily our knowledge of God. When we know God, when we deepen our understanding of God, we become more conformed to God. And a union is created between us and God. When I know God and I perfect my knowledge of him, I'm creating greater and greater, more and more perfect representations of God that are essentially relative to him. Man images God precisely by thinking about God, by raising his mind to God. As man images God in the work of theology, he's more and more perfecting his understanding of who and what God is. What's happening in that process, again, if we believe Aquinas on all this, is that his mind is becoming more and more God-like. In doing so, man becomes more and more like God. If you've ever heard me preach, you've heard me say that God saves us by changing us to be more like himself, right? That's the Catholic conception of salvation. God makes us God-like. Well, God doesn't change my body. I didn't change color through being saved. What's the nature of that change, therefore? For Aquinas, it's always by knowledge and by love. God makes me like himself by making me capable of knowing him and loving him. We're not talking about love today. We're just talking about knowledge. So in knowing God, our mind becomes conformed to God. To know God better is to become more like God. In this process, again, it can be carried naturally to a certain extent. I had this on the last slide. Aquinas believes you can arrive at knowledge of God just through reason. Probably heard of his 5 proofs for the existence of God. Not going to go through those, but basically he says that, the universe as we know it, which is subject to change and motion, doesn't explain its own existence. So we can reason to the existence of a cause outside of the universe, which causes it to be. So you can know God through reason, and even know certain attributes about God. And actually, as Catholics, you have to believe that, right? So I always love, people usually aren't aware of this, but this is like dogmatic teaching of the Catholic Church. And St. Paul says it too, right? What can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. Ever since the creation of the world, his eternal power and divine nature, invisible though they are, can be understood and seen through the things he has made. So through our understanding of the world, we can arrive at a knowledge of God. And then Vatican I dogmatically says the same church holds and teaches, and that's how you know it's dogma, when she lays that, holds, teaches, professes, right? The source and end of all things can be known with certainty from the consideration of created things by the natural power of human reason. So reason can go to a certain extent in its knowledge of God, but it's carried far further by grace, because beyond what we can know about God naturally, God has chosen out of his love for us to tell us certain things about himself. He's told us things that we could never have dreamed of, never have arrived at on our own, but he's freely revealed them. That's divine revelation, right? And so when we use our minds to think about those things, to deepen our understanding of them, to derive further conclusions from them, our minds are becoming more like God. They're becoming more God-like. And again, all that happens under the auspices of grace. And that's what faith is, essentially. I said faith is an intellectual act. It's the gift by which God elevates our intellect to receive those revealed truths. In order for the natural intellect to accept supernatural truth, the natural intellect needs to be supernaturalized. And that's what faith does. It's a divine gift which modifies your intellect in such a way as to receive divine revealed truth. And then having revealed it, you can use your mind to deepen your understanding of those truths or bring them into comparison with natural truths or other revealed ones. And that's theology. And when you're doing that, you're imaging God. And God is glorified when his creation comes to imitate him. God is glorified in creation when his creatures imitate him. In bringing in the highest part of your human nature, your intellect, into knowledge of the highest reality, God, you become a human being fully alive and you image God. The deeper and the more perfect your knowledge of God becomes, the more perfect your conformity to him becomes. And to that measure, you flourish as a human being and you glorify God. So brothers, use your minds. Study, think, pursue the truth. As Catholics, we are the inheritors of an unparalleled intellectual tradition. No other church has what we have. And I can tell you that my faith was set on fire the moment I started to realize that. The moment I realized that there are far more answers out there to the questions that I always had that I was told that I couldn't ask. There's a frightening number of answers out there. It's amazing. And again, you are a being which is made to know the truth. So to the extent that you use that part of yourself to discern and discover and learn the truth, you will flourish, you will be happy, and you will glorify God. Questions? There we go, that's it. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.